This is Nothing But That Sports Talk. Welcome to another episode of Nothing But That Sports Talk. I'm Rafique Louison alongside a very special guest of mine. You've seen him on SNY and New York Post, and you see him become a co-host of Knicks Fan TV, which is hosted by CP The Franchise. I want you to welcome Alex the TriCaster. Welcome aboard.
Rafique, thank you for having me on, man. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. It's time to build up to the 2023 NBA playoffs, or at least for the New York Knicks' sake, because they're currently sitting well in the 5th seed, and it's unlikely they're going to catch the Cavaliers for the 4th seed. But you know what? A matchup between the Knicks and Cavaliers will happen, assuming they can hold off the Brooklyn Nets and the Miami Heat. But before we get to some New York Knicks talk, let's just get to how you got interested in being the content creator that you are right now.
All right, sure. Yeah. I don't know, how far back do you want me to go? Like all the way back?
Doesn't matter. Like... back from the beginning.
Sure. I attended I've always enjoyed sports, love playing sports, all that jazz. I played rugby, basketball, football, did track and field, wrestling, did all that growing up, and always had a fond appreciation for New York sports when it came to the Yankees, Knicks, Jets. And I attended, while I was in law school, or I should say past law school, I was working as an attorney, and I was able to go to the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference, thanks to my wife, and go there, met some people. Shout out to Art Rondeau, and really just inspired me that I could make that transition from being an attorney and creating content and starting like my writing career. So from there, started my own blog, and worked on it, saw how difficult it was, started working for Fanside after that when I was given an opportunity. Then went from there, started networking, met CP just because I was fond of Knicks Fan TV, following him, Knicks Film School, the Strickland, all those guys, or when the Strickland all those guys were back at Posting and Toasting. And, just network from there because I forget the name of the beard oil that CP was promoting at the time, but I reached out to him then, asked what it was, continue to grind. And then next thing I know, CP gave me this awesome opportunity to narrate my first video, which was breaking down Frank Ntilikina's game during the pandemic. And from there, I just joined Knicks Fan TV and, senior editor for the website, co-host for the post game, doing Knicks Weekly, and also previewing these games. So it's been a fun ride and journey so far.
And that's a good example about how it doesn't matter how you start as a journalist, but it's how you finish. And you managed to bring your passion for talking basketball onto a platform that has been around for like not nearly a decade. I mean, it's obviously been around for like 7 or 8 years. I'm sure Casey Powell will tell me the rest, whatever he comes on the show in the future. But aside from all that, though, when you get I want to talk about the whole experience of being able to put your voice onto a platform that focuses solely on Knicks basketball.
So, like, what do you mean by how do I feel about just having a platform talking about Knicks? Is that what you're asking me?
I'm asking you, what was the whole experience like for you being able to put your voice onto a platform that focused solely on the Knicks basketball?
Oh, it's fun, man. It's great. And, I just love talking Knicks. I love breaking down the game. I like looking at it from a numbers standpoint, using the eye test, and just talking about what I see on the court and getting to watch players develop. When I started writing, I covered Julius Randle's first season on the Knicks, and watching how he's progressed, how quickly he's progressed the year after that, even Obi Toppin, even in his limited minutes, and RJ Barrett, it's just been a lot of fun, and it's been a great grind just being able to talk about watching their development, how this team has just started to morph into becoming a good basketball team instead of what we've had to watch for the past 20 years. More of the past 20 years, right? Like we had some blips with like Carmelo Anthony and Tyson Chandler on the team. We saw the Stoudemire. I still will never forget when Stat should have had, even though it was like by the buzzer beater, when he should have had that buzzer beater 3 against the Celtics.
Against the Boston Celtics, yeah,
against the Boston Celtics, man. Now I love that game. Even though we lost, I love that game just because what Stat was bringing to the team that season with Felton and everybody. But just to see where this team has come to right now, it's been great. And I love that I get to add a voice and work with the community, man, because it's not just me talking about the Knicks. It's more so about the community. And I love Knicks fans because of how passionate they are about this team. I live out here in Boston. Celtics fans are just as passionate, but it's different when you see a passion for a team that hasn't been on the side of winning for so many years, and yet fans keep coming back and want to see this team succeed. And so being able to be part of the journey of not the players' development, but now fans get to watch a good basketball team, it's been a lot of fun. So it's cool just to add my voice to it.
And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, me being a Knicks fan since 2006, I gotta say it's very honored being able to actually talk to another Knicks fan that puts all his heart and soul into covering the New York Knicks from the comfort of his home. I mean, well, right now, let's just get to this one question. Like, have you ever once thought of actually covering the New York Knicks, like in person, doing the press conferences? It's like talking to the players.
Have I ever had that opportunity? I mean, I haven't had that opportunity to talk to the
I
players or
mean,
cover a press,
I
but
mean, if that's what you strive for, to interview a New York Knicks player.
yeah, I mean, that'd be great. I'd love to interview players. I'd love to interview and get their takes on the game. I mean, that's what I'm reaching for. I want to know what they see and just continue to learn about basketball because I me for myself, I like to know what they're seeing on the court at that game speed and what practices, like what goes into a practice, what plays are they running, what are their favorite type of plays, breaking down a play down to the nitty gritty, and just I want to get into the weeds of just what basketball players go through from practice, playing on a night to night basis. You know, some of the stuff that we don't necessarily get to hear from the coverage that we get from the Knicks, like we get it from here and there, but really want to dive in and really know what they think about playing an 82 game season and what goes into it.
Exactly, and when you cover the players from not just the stats perspective, but like all the body strength they put into getting all the points and assists and rebounds that they get, it's the wonder why you get better insight of why the Knicks play below expectations or why they play high expectations. Like in 2021, like in 2000, well, obviously when you joined Knicks Fan TV, you got a sense of why the Knicks went from being good in 2021 to bad in 2022 to good again in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get to talk Knicks during the NBA playoffs. Well, once the season's already clinched. I mean, it's not clinched yet, but whenever it is clinched, you get to
Right.
talk about it.
Yeah. And looking forward to talking about this team in the playoffs. And hopefully it's different this time around, right? Because we know what happened 2 years ago when they played against the Atlanta Hawks. It wasn't a good series. I mean, we had one game, we won one game. You know, it was a festivities out in the streets, but it was just one game. Now I want to see more than that. I want to see Randall be able to get his redemption after that season. I want to see what Grimes can do in the postseason. Let's see how quickly an Obi in their minutes get to bounce back after getting a taste of what it's like to be in the playoffs. And, you know, we got Jalen Brunson too. So I'm a little bit more confident with Jalen Brunson just because he was on the Dallas Mavericks with Luka and the rest of that team and helped them get to the Western Conference Finals last season. So I look for his experience to help this team to kind of calm everybody down. And it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I hope it's a lot of fun, but it's going to be fun this time around just from the jump because this is a more talented team than it was last season and definitely 2 years ago because there's a lot more shot creation. These guys are more experienced. You see that with the young guys on this team right now. They built from within. You know, you don't see Evan Fournier playing anymore. Derrick Rose, even though he's been on the team since for the last, including the season, the past 3 seasons, you know, he's not getting any burn this year. And you're watching all these young guys who this team has drafted now put in the work and contribute to winning. So I'm so curious to see how they're all going to perform in the playoffs, including RJ Barrett, because he's won with Randall because you talk about one of the top two guys on that team from that season that really underperformed. So I want to see what they're going to look like this postseason.
Exactly, because well, Julius Randle did underperform in his last postseason appearance in 2021, where he was playing horrible. RJ Barrett had some good plays, but let's be honest, he kind of was playing below expectations. But that's how it is when you're like it's like literally your first year in the playoffs. But as you continue to go through the one bad season you have in between the two playoff years, you probably get a better sense of how good the New York Knicks could be now that you had a point guard like Jalen Brunson and not trying to go with youth from the NBA draft. But like, let me ask you something. When you look back at the NBA draft for when the Knicks drafted somebody just to trade to Oklahoma City Thunder to get Kemba Walker out the roster, like, do you think it was a bad? Do you thought there was a bad idea right now that the Knicks didn't draft anybody?
When we got Kemba Walker, what was it? We did. Let's see. We drafted. What was that last season? No, we didn't draft a point guard. I mean, we drafted. Are you talking about when we got rid of Kemba Walker? Or when we got Kemba Walker?
We got rid of Kemba Walker.
Oh,
And
that's it. No,
draft
no, I
Max.
don't think that. I don't think it was bad that we didn't draft anyone this past year. I mean, I was frustrated in the moment when I was watching it unfold, just because there was no guarantee. You know, you got the draft before free agency, so there was no guarantee that we were going to get Jalen Brunson. So it didn't make sense then. Once you allow everything to unfold and you see that you get Jalen Brunson, and you can relax and say, okay, we got our guy, we got this player. He's young, he's 25, 26 years old. That's going to be your point guard for the next 4 years based on the contract, and hopefully longer by the way he's playing. So, no, I look back and it's like, it's fine, especially since you're still getting draft capital, right? It's not necessarily premier draft capital because let's look at the Wizards, right? It's lottery protected. You're not gonna get one in the lottery. They're out of it. So you're not getting anyone this year. And it continuously drops, right? Every single year. Detroit, I think it's top 18 protected. They're a terrible team. They're a terrible team. So you know you weren't gonna get anything this year. You got the Mavs pick, which is a better draft pick. Right now, after last night, they're projected to get the 11th pick, which would be right outside the top 10. So no, like I think it's a good idea to keep pushing it and just I think you could say you could look at it from it's a good idea to push it down the road to keep collecting more assets to now get that trade. Because now you'll get the Knicks, they have 19 draft picks, right? Including second rounders. So now you could go make that trade for a star, as Brian Windhorst is talking about, that the Knicks have the ammo to get 1 or 2 stars in this building to add to what they have. So it doesn't, in the moment it hurts, but at the end of the day, when you're watching where the Knicks are positioned right now, you can say it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? The Knicks do have the Mavericks pick, but it's top 10 protected. So that means the Mavericks have to be between 11th and 5th in order for the Knicks to have a chance to win the lottery. But the Knicks never win the lottery. So it's good that they're back into the playoffs again. But looking at the New York Knicks right now with Jalen Brunson, like, what do you think? How big of an impact did the Jalen Brunson deal have on the New York Knicks this year?
Oh man, it's been immense. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's completely changed the outlook of this entire team. Look, the Knicks haven't had a point guard, and the last competent point guard that we had was Raymond Felton. So the fact that it's been then, and he wasn't a superstar. Brunson, I mean, Felton wasn't a superstar. He was competent, good with Jason Kidd, and you saw that dual point guard to help each other, right? Jason Kidd was old. He couldn't attack like the way Raymond Felton was. And Raymond Felton didn't necessarily have that IQ that Jason Kidd has from all those years of being a championship winner on the Dallas Mavericks. So both of them together made one point guard, but they're taking up 2 positions. Now you get Jalen Brunson, a guy who has the smarts. He has that IQ. We see it on the nightly basis. And he has that scoring output, the facilitating, all of that. I mean, how can you not want someone who's averaging close to 24 points per game, averaging 83% from the free throw line? He's shooting, what is it? Shooting 41% from downtown, and he's shooting 49% from the field. Such an efficient player. And when you have somebody like that, it just makes it that much better. And we can't forget the 6 assists that he's averaging. So having him on this team has just been a game changer, especially when you watch how he's helped Julius Randle get back into a flow, right? We saw Randle be all NBA and all-star 2 seasons ago. He's back to being that because he doesn't have to take on that entire responsibility thanks to Jalen Brunson, who can help him get to his spots, whether it's being on the block, 15 feet or out. You look at Quentin Grimes, you look at Immanuel Quickly, like whenever he's on the floor, those guys just seem poised. And sure, we see nights where, maybe RJ doesn't have it because so much of the shot attempts come from Brunson and Randall, but still everyone's in position, and he just keeps everyone cool, calm, and collected. And especially in the fourth quarter when you need him the most, that's when he's been able to produce. So Brunson's been a fantastic signing.
Exactly. And you know what? He's going to be very useful when in another, it was going to be another Donovan Mitchell versus Jalen Brunson guard matchup. Because we saw that in the Dallas Utah series last year. Now there's a chance you're going to see that between these 2 players. Like, how excited will Donovan Mitchell versus Jalen Brunson be?
Donovan Mitchell versus Jalen Brunson is going to be box office. I mean, look, last season they faced off against each other, except Brunson was in a different jersey, right? He was playing for the Mavs, and we saw him put up 40 plus 30 points against Donovan Mitchell. Mavs defeated them, even though Luka came back to help. It's going to be another box office matchup. And it's funny that both of them are just in different uniforms. in the same conference again. You know, they went from the West now to the East. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Who guards? You know, I know it's not gonna be Brunson It's not gonna be Brunson guarding Mitchell, and it's not gonna be Mitchell guarding Brunson. It'll be a fun matchup to see how that goes down. I expect both of them to get theirs to facilitate and play make for their respective teams. But it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be box office through and through, and the storylines is just going to be through the roof. You know, should the Knicks gotten Donovan Mitchell if the Knicks lose, if the Knicks win, you know, it's like, oh wow, look at this team. Donovan Mitchell should have wanted to go there. What could have been, and all these other storylines. So it'll be a fun matchup.
Exactly. You know what? I'm not even that worried that Donovan Mitchell didn't come to the New York Knicks, because you would have had to give up a lot in order to get this guy on the team. But I just say,
Exactly.
so that's why I'm not even that mad that Donovan Mitchell didn't come to the New York Knicks. Yes, it would have been nice to have a star, and the Knicks do need a star. But as of right now, I'm satisfied with the Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle trio that we have right now, the so-called big three that everybody's alluding to for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, look, it worked out. It was a steep package that the Utah that's been reported that the Utah Jazz wanted. If you think about it, Barrett, who's averaging close to 20 points per game this season, and he's been much better at finishing around the rim. You have Immanuel Quickly, who's averaging about 14 points, but has just been a complete all-around player. I mean, Quickly is now in the 6th man of the year conversation. He's just a rising. He's rising, man. Every single year, he just continuously improves. And if you think about that package trading Quickly and RJ just to go get Donovan Mitchell, you know, yes, that team would have been top heavy, would have been good, but this team is much more well-rounded as of right now. And we have more talent, a lot of draft capital, good problems to have. I like it.
And they added Josh Hart, a guy who teamed up with Jalen Brunson during days in Villanova. They won a national championship together in 2016. So the fact, even though Josh Hart is only averaging about 10 points per game, at the very least, his contribution, his defensive presence was part of the reason the Knicks improved a lot more than they were already doing before the trade. They had a 9-game winning streak.
Oh yeah, 9-game winning streak with Josh Hart. He just adds a different dimension on this team. I love the energy that he brings. He does all the little things, and he's a winning player. That's why he's been traded so much. It's not that he's been bad. He's been considered, like, every team has wanted him based on those intangibles, you know, from the Lakers going down to the Pelicans, from the Pelicans to the Trailblazers, and now to the Knicks. You know, what he's doing right now is it just shows why he's been coveted around the league. But what he's doing for the Knicks right now, it's fantastic. You're talking about a guy who could be a one-man band man out in the transition when it comes to the fast break. He's a rebounder. He's a playmaker. He's like a strong safety, free safety, whatever you want to call him when he's on defense. He can backpedal, grab the ball while it's being passed for like a full court pass, and just change the momentum of the game. What he does will not be found in a stat sheet. What he does, like the amount of energy and what his presence is. You have to watch games to understand how important Josh Hart is. And for this bench, you know, once Jalen Brunson's healthy, Immanuel Quickly, Josh Hart leading that second unit, having them in the playoffs, it's going to be tough. They're going to be a tough second unit to guard.
Exactly. It's because of everything that we just talked about that the New York Knicks and the Cavaliers will be the playoff matchup to watch in the Eastern Conference, should this actually comes into fruition.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope it is that matchup, not just because I think it's the easiest matchup for the Knicks to like win. I think they have the best shot if they make it to the second round going against the Cleveland Cavaliers, just because both teams are very young and inexperienced when it comes to the rest of the roster, right? Donovan Mitchell's been in the playoffs. Jalen Brunson's been in the playoffs. But when you look at that rest of the roster, Cavs last year were in the play-in, lose to the Nets. When the Knicks were in it 2 years ago, it was Julius Randle, RJ Barrett. They made the playoffs, but it wasn't that great. A lot of them underperformed. And now you have at the helm for both teams is Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, leading a lot of young, unexperienced guys, hoping to make a deep run in the playoffs. So it'll be a fun matchup. That's why I want that matchup. Also, the storylines that come with it, and like Philly would be tough. Boston, I mean, I'll
We
gladly
did
take a
win
matchup
three
with
out of four
Boston.
against the Celtics.
Yeah, they won 3-1 against the Celtics. I like that matchup too. I think the Knicks match up very well with the Celtics. Not saying that would be easy. There's no shoo-in for any of these teams to move on to the next round. Once you're at this level, everything's going to be a dogfight to make sure to you advance. But I like the Knicks matchup. I like their odds more with the Cleveland Cavaliers than any other team right now.
Exactly. And I know you just said, I heard what you just said about matchup better against the Cavaliers than with any other top four teams in the Eastern Conference. But assuming the Knicks get out of the first round and then down the road, they have to face two of the top three teams in the Eastern Conference. Like, do you think the Knicks are championship ready right now?
No, I don't think they're championship ready right now. I don't think. I think championship ready teams. There's a lot of scars that come with championship ready teams. I don't think the Knicks have enough scars to get there. Right. I mean, you can look at the Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan, see how many failures he had to have in the playoffs before there was the right team to make it all the way and win. Right, and defeat the Lakers, defeat Magic's team. You can look at even the Bucks and all of their failures in the playoffs in order for them to go win a title. A championship winning team is not built overnight. It takes many seasons for them to jump over that hurdle. So for the Knicks this season, I'm not expecting any championships. Now, if in the odd case that did happen, uh give kudos to the front office, pop champagnes, build a statue outside of Madison Square Garden with Leon Rose, Worldwide West, Tom Thibodeau, Julius Randle, and everybody else, because that would just be phenomenal. But I don't see that happening, just because there's a lot of steps to get there. Like even the Celtics, right? Let's use them for last season. How many years did we have to watch the Celtics go through it, whether it's losing in the second or the third round, or the third round of the playoffs, just before they can finally make it to the finals as they did last season, right? And they still lost to the Golden State Warriors. And the same thing happened with the Warriors. Like they had to go through their bumps and bruises too with Mark Jackson before Steve Kerr can come in, change up the system, and really take it to another level. Plus, it's also players getting to that next step in their development, right? Like Draymond Green wasn't Draymond Green under Mark Jackson. He became Draymond Green under Steve Kerr, right? And it was just so happened that David Lee getting injured allowed him to succeed. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that need to happen for this Knicks team to get to that next level. I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, exactly. And another example that to add on to your point and why I agree with everything you agree. Look at LeBron James' career. Like when he was playing for the Cavaliers his first then he made the finals only one time. And every other time has been first round, second round exit, conference finals exit, second round exit. Before you finally made back to the finals of the Miami Heat, he had to go through one finals loss to the Miami Heat before he finally won it all in 2012 and 13. And obviously, of course, he had to get to the Knicks and do it in 2012, but it's whatever. He won those championships, and before he took another L in the finals against the Spurs, and he had it first, and then another L when he went back to Cleveland. He had to take an L against the Golden State Warriors before they finally came back and beat them in 2016. And then, of course, he won the finals again until he joined the Lakers. He went through that bumps and bruises there before he won it all in the bubble. So this goes to show, and I'm just saying that to show that it's going to take time for the New York Knicks until they're a championship team. I mean, we'd be excited. Not that we wouldn't be excited, but we can't just act like they're a championship team just because they made it to the playoffs and they won some regular season games against the teams we know they're not good to beat when playoff time matters.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that we know that they're not going to beat them. I think it's going to be tough because it's different. Regular season is just different from postseason. You're facing the same opponent at max 7 times in a series, right? So everyone's going to know each other's flaws and weaknesses. How do you expose each other's flaws and weaknesses while countering what they're going to do to expose your flaws and weaknesses, right? It's a whole litany of things that you have to do, not only as a coach being prepared for the X's and O's, it's also the players being mentally prepared of like what moments that you don't attempt or you do attempt, right? Like when we go back to watching the Knicks play the Miami Heat and you see Quickly put up a 3 when he's not really feeling it that night and the game is now tied. It's like, no, this entire time you've been chipping away to get back to tie this game. You have to continuously chip to create a lead to then take those attempts, because if you don't hit that three, right, now it's a long rebound. Miami can get it. They can attack in transition, get an easy two. Now you have to do the same thing again, which is now grind and try to tie it again, instead of maybe if you take time, if you look at the landscape of the court and you work in the half court, work a half court play to attack and get those easy 2 points. Now you create a cushion for yourself. Now you can come back down and take a three, because you're putting that pressure on Miami, who just had the lead, who now has to tense, who's probably becoming more tense because they just lost it in the fourth quarter and they have to work back. So it takes time to figure out those type of moments to know the right shot selection. And that's why it's stuff like that where, it's not that the Knicks couldn't do it, but it's just the experience that they need in order to be able to do that and understand the in-game moments.
Exactly. And Immanuel Quickly, he has been known to actually take shots like really rushes 3-point shots. Some nights he makes it, other nights he doesn't. But yesterday, the other night against the Houston Rockets, he was knocking down shots like it's out of nowhere. He was literally carrying that team with Jalen Bronson nursing an injury. Like, he had his first 40 piece. When you see Immanuel Quickly drop his first 40 piece of his NBA career, like, how do you think that elevates his game and making him more useful come playoff time, especially with the Cavaliers match we have this week coming up?
Yeah, I mean, look, Quickly, it wasn't just the 40 points that he added, which was just phenomenal, because he had a 38-point game against the Boston Celtics at the last game, that they won on that 9-game winning streak. But Quickly's box score was 40 points, 9 assists. He had 2 rebounds. He went 7 for 9 from the free throw line, 5 or 7 from downtown, 14 from 18 from the field is where I really want to highlight it, because he was just efficient in everything that he did, and he attacked in many ways, because you watched him drive, finish through contact, knock down a mid-range jumper, shoot from three, use his footwork in order to do the up and under layups that we see from Jalen Bronson. Obviously something that around there that Brunson's giving him little tips on how to add that to his game. So you watch that from Immanuel Quickly, and we just goes back to what we talked about earlier, is his development. But that, I don't expect that type of output to translate again into a game against the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are a much more difficult team. They play good defense. They really grind the game out, just like the Knicks do. So I just would like to see him be, once again, efficient in the times that he get. If it's Jalen Brunson, he's good. If Jalen Brunson's back and Quickly is coming off the bench, you want to see, it's obviously going to be difficult to get a 40-point performance coming off the bench, but you want to see that tailored to an impactful game. And we've seen that where he's had 20 points coming off the bench. He can get his 4 or 5 assists, get you 4 or 5 rebounds, and get you like 1 or 2 steals as well. And if he can do that while being efficient and not losing possessions, that just continues to show the impact that he has on this team.
Yeah, it's because of the physical plays like that. Even Quickly, he's a 6-man of the year candidate, or at least he will be in the near future if he continues to progress at this level, despite coming off the bench, or if he's only started, it's only because of Jalen Brunson's injuries.
Yeah, I think he's got a really good shot. As of right now, the odds are in his favor, depending on the sports book that you look at. But I still think it's a really good shot for him to win 6-man of the year, just because even with the games that he started, I think he started 17 games the last time I checked. You look at the games that he started, and I tweeted this out today. You can make the argument that him having to take that step when either Jalen Brunson or RJ has missed games shows you the value of him being a bench player, right? Like, most of the time this season, he's been coming off the bench. No doubt about it. He's only missed 1 game. You see when he needs to elevate his game, being in the starting rotation, that just adds to how good of a bench player he is, because he's been impactful. The Knicks have either been in games or won games while he's there. So that only continues to add to his case for 6-man of the year. I think Brogdon's got a really good case. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think whoever finishes this season strong will probably be the winner of that 6-man of the year award, just because it's going to be recency bias in any of these awards. So if Quickly has a hot finish to the season, I wouldn't be surprised if that pushes him over the edge, just because you can also continue to make the argument saying, look, the Knicks, they don't have superstars like Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. right? And you could say with those two guys, Jason Tatum, who's been, even though it's now starting to die out, he was an MVP consideration for most of the season. Jalen Brown, I did a whole interview with Keith Smith. He calls Tatum and Brown Superman and Batman. So it's not like it's not a sidekick. These are two guys who are capable of like helping the team win in their own right. And you can say because of those guys, Brogdon hasn't had to do much because the team's being carried by those two guys. Even though he's been impactful, it's not to take away from Brogdon. You can say those two guys help the team, help the Celtics be second in the Eastern Conference. For the Knicks, yes, Jalen Brunson's been very important. So has Julius Randle. But they're not there yet at the Brown and Tatum levels, right? If they can get to those levels. You needed Immanuel Quickly's help. This has been more of a team effort for the Knicks, which I could say that shows you how good of a six-man Immanuel Quickly has been just because of the overall team effort for the Knicks' success this season.
Exactly. And the New York Knicks, even in all those losses that they've had this year, in games that they should never lost, they showed that they could grind games all the way down to the final minutes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you just hope they continue to do that right into the playoffs.
Exactly. Now, continuing the conversation, I want to talk about from what you see so far from Casey Powell when he did all those amazing interviews. He got to be on WFAN, and what do you think of Casey Powell as the media professional that he is today?
I mean, CP is amazing. I mean, look, he's created the whole channel from the get-go. Was it back in the year that Frank got drafted? So was that 2017? So back in 2017, CP started the entire Knicks Fan TV channel. And from there, you're just seeing the growth from, doing interviews, first post games and stuff like that. And you see the professionalism of him becoming a better broadcaster, how he carries himself, his networking ability. There's just so much that is done behind the scenes and not just being in front of a camera, right? So his constant work ethic is just inspirational. And that's why it's been awesome to work, for Knicks Fan TV and just watch him succeed and grind because it's to me, it's unmatched to what he does. So just to see that constant hustle, that constant effort, CP does a phenomenal job with the channel, managing an entire team. Like he's been able to scale up, that's not everything that Knicks Fan TV is right now is not an easy process when you're the boss. That's why the bosses get paid the money because not only they take on the responsibility and the liability, but it's a thought process of when do you add more people to the team? How do you create a brand? How do you manage that image? Relaying that to the rest of your team so that way it's constant all the way through. On top of that, the product is covering the Knicks, right? How are you able to cover the Knicks the way that Knicks Fan TV does with Knicks Weekly, post games, game previews? You got JD doing the play-by-plays, right? It's a lot of thought, effort. The graphics are on point. Shout out to Gamba for doing that. We got Jared and Tower doing the highlights and stuff, and we got a whole writing team for KnicksFanTV.com. There's a lot that goes into it, and CP's been able to build all that, and he's just been very inspirational and a great mentor.
Yeah, he's very inspirational, and he likes talking New York Knicks basketball. I mean, he had that mindset to talk New York Knicks basketball in order to do a content that he does. He got to be on SNY on TV. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work what he does, and shout out to him for achieving his goals, man, because he's literally living out his dreams right before him. And I know he's always excited when he gets to talk about it.
Exactly. And let's just continue living our dreams of being the content creator that we are right now. That's all I can say.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Shout out to you for what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, as we talked about the Knicks being the playoff earlier, I was on Dexter Henry's NBA Exchange show where he asked me whether or not the New York Knicks are a playoff team. And I told him, yes, they are a playoff team, as long as they don't fall behind earlier. Even if they do have 17-point leads early, they have to learn to close out games. And during the 9-game winning streak and then the wins they get after that, they've showed how to close out games. And I was right all along. The Knicks are a playoff team. Seriously.
Yeah, no, they're a good team, man. It's weird to say that since we've watched a lot of bad teams, whether it's been with, and this is not to throw shade at any players, but we've watched Tony Douglas, we watched so many. I'm just thinking about Will Munson and all these other guys. Alexei Shved. You watch all of them, Emmanuel Mudiay. Oh, it's been a lot that we've had to go through. And so when you finally get to watch some high quality basketball, and it's really a game changer. And I love that this team is really, really closing out. Well, I don't like the way that they've been closing out the season. Hopefully they can be back on track, because the 3-game skid, the 3-game win, the 3-game skid, not the way you wanted to go out after going on a 9-game winning streak, but hopefully they can get back on track. But this is a team that you got to watch out for come playoff times.
Exactly. Now, to close out this episode, why don't you give me like your New York Knicks Mount Rushmore? And it has to be a Knick that's played in playoff games from
Oh, it
when
has
you
to be a
started
Knick that played
watching
in
it.
playoff games.
Yes.
I mean, sheesh. Playoff Mount Rushmore. I mean, it's only going to be the names that are hanging on the banners in Madison Square Garden. Willis Reed's got to be there. Walt Clyde Frazier's got to be there. Even though I never watched them play, rest in peace to my pops. He always told me about them, and he got to watch them play. So I'm going to put Willis and Clyde there. I mean, got Clyde hanging right behind me anyway. So I got to put Patrick in there just because I did watch him play. And he's also hanging on the banners. I guess the other guy I'm going to go with Dave DeBusschere, just because I like the defensive presence, the rebounding, and that was my dad's favorite guy right there. That was my dad's favorite guy, just because played baseball. My dad loved the Yankees, even though DeBusschere didn't play for the Yankees, just a baseball player. And then just gritty, blue, like hard hat, went in, did his business, solid rebounder, solid defensive presence. Got to give Dave DeBusschere his love.
Hey, I ain't mad at you on that one, because if you watch basketball since like the 90s, of course you're gonna have to add those players onto your New York Knicks Mount Rushmore. Because those guys are actually guys that played playoff teams. And you know what? Since you bring up Willis Reed, I mean, yeah, may God rest his soul, Willis Reed. And I'm so glad you came on the show to talk about Willis Reed's legacy. Like, I mean, I know you haven't watched Willis Reed play in real life, but as you look back at his archives and watching them go to the tumble, go to the Knicks win a championship, like, what do you learn from watching old highlights of Willis Reed's NBA career?
Yeah, rest in peace to Willis Reed, Knicks legend right there. I don't think he gets enough love for the impact that he had on this New York Knicks team, you know, from the recent generation. Of course, if you watch the Knicks during then and you're an NBA fan during the 60s and 70s, you got to witness how great he was. But just think about the impact that he had in Game 7. And I know there's a lot more that did to it, because he was MVP that season, you know. But think about the impact that he had in Game 7, where he's playing on one leg, and Wilt Chamberlain just did not play his game. Like, just think about that impact. Just think about how good you have to be to put the fear of God in Wilt Chamberlain while you're injured, and then on top of that, boost the level of your team to play at an ultimate level. Like, Clyde went off that night, right? Like, he had 19 assists, he had 36 points. So the fact that he could elevate everyone's team while even being injured, put the fear of God, like I said, into Wilt Chamberlain, and he had to battle, man. Like, look, he had a battle against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Lou Alcindor before he changed the name when he was on the Bucks. Um, that playoff, and Wes Unseld, he had to play Wes Unseld too on the on Bullets too, that playoff. So you had Unseld, you had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor during that time, and then Wilt Chamberlain, and yet he's still posting numbers. He's still like, that's just legendary stuff, man. That's legendary stuff to win a championship while playing the center position. And that was what that time was about, right? If you had a big man that could dominate in the paint, you were golden. So rest in peace to Willis Reed, man, a legend. I'm not doing it any justice because I didn't watch him, but he was a legend. Just by how OG Knicks fans talk about him to today and how he's revered, you can tell he was a special person. You can even hear in Walt Clyde Frazier's voice on the broadcast of losing a brother, somebody who meant so much to us championship winning teams. just the camaraderie. Rest in peace to Willis Reed.
Yes, rest in peace indeed. Well, that wrap up this episode of Nothing But That Sports. So thank you so much for stopping by, Alex Tricaster, as they call you on Knicks Fan TV. And I can't wait to see all the content that you and CP the franchise put together. I can't wait to continue seeing CP the franchise come on SNY right in front of my TV screen. Continue to do your thing, and I know you're going to make it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, my man. Rafique, it was really great to meet you. Thank you for having me on, and much success to you in the future, man. Good talking to you.
Yeah. And to all the balls out there, including Knicks fans and content creators, get your head in the game.